Hello and welcome to my Inheritable skills tier list, where we are going to be ranking all of these inheritable skills for the base game in Fire Emblem Engage. Now this is for Maddening, and I'm assuming you're not doing any exploits or any XP farms or anything like that. I'm just assuming you're beating the game at like an average pace, not necessarily doing LTC or taking too long, kind of like, 10 to 20 turn average per map. Using, the well, which is now part of the game. It's a free update, so this definitely changes things. But let's start with the tiering. So S, I would say, is the metagame, meaning it's really good or overpowered. A tier is just strong. B tier is good. C tier is okay. D tier is bad or like very situational. So to begin, let's talk about advance. Now this is assuming we're unlocking these, right? Like this isn't getting these from the emblem ring itself for free. This is using this as one of your two passive slots. Advance allows you to attack with melee an extra tile away and move to that target. Now this isn't really that useful. It does extend your melee range, but 2 range and 3 range weapons exist, so there's really no need for it. So I think it's just never worth getting. I'm also going to put Alacrity here. To unlock this, I think it's not worth it. If you get this for free from Lin Ring, it's great, but unlocking this for the sole purpose of doubling things before they counterattack isn't really the best thing. You can usually hit things at like 2 range if they're 1 range, 3 range if they're 2 range. You can break enemies. There's all these different ways of getting around and taking damage. I don't think it's really that useful. It situationally could be okay, but you're throwing out like a really good passive for this. I don't think it's worth it. Arm Shield, I think, has some potential, though it's very situational. I almost want to put it in D tier, but at least it's a cheap damage reduction, so it's not the worst thing. This one, it's like, I think it's like Arts Mastery. It's like a weird one I never use. Sorry, Arts Focus. Hit plus 30, dodge minus 10 when using an Arts. This is completely unneeded. The Arts are pretty accurate. I've never had issues with like missing with them. I don't use that many arts units. Like I'll have like 1 or 2 maybe. That's such a niche thing that I don't recommend this ever. So just terrible. Avoid plus 30 is strong. You can run avoid tank builds, and if you get avoid plus 10 to 20 on early units, this can actually be very impactful and potentially even like S tier, but it's just pretty good. Axe power, definitely S tier. Getting axe power on Tomahawk, on Brave Axe, on Killer Axe, on anything like Silver Great Axe is huge. Even just using like Noatin or just like a Silver Axe or a Steel Axe, this is a massive upside. It's just free damage, right? All of the powers are free damage. Bow agility, this one I'm gonna put in D tier. So it's avoid up to avoid plus 30 at the cost of crit minus 10. Which is alright, but bows aren't enemy phase weapons, so avoid tanking on a bow is kind of stupid, so I don't really get it. Next we have Bow Focus, which gives up to hit plus 30, but giving dodge minus 10, which means incoming crits are higher. This could be okay for an archer that has bad hit rates, like let's say you want to make like a longbow archer that just like debuffs with Draconic Hex or something. I could see this being used on like Saphir. So I would put it in C tier, but I think Thorons are better debuffers, and it's more consistent. Bravery. So Bravery is part of Gentility. I'm putting both of these. Wait, where's the other one? I'll put both of these in metagame, because it's 2 sides of the same coin, right? But Bravery is one of the cheapest and most available damage source increases. So what you do is you get Gentility for 2k SP, and you can get this very early. I think it just costs 500 bond fragments, and you can get plus 3 damage on any weapon type, including tomes and daggers, which are usually hard to increase their damage on because they require Roy for strength or Celica for magic increase, and both of those have late game availability. So this is one of the cheapest and most available sources of damage, and then once you get it to the plus version, it's plus 5 damage, so it's great for tomes and daggers. It's great for enemy phase. And also when the Erica unit engages, you also get a damage reduction. And you can manually switch from damage mode to tanking mode. So you can throw like Gentility on an Ike tank, trigger Blue Skies, then give it more damage and also increase its tanking. It's actually pretty solid. It's pretty legit. Break defense is just okay. You know, you break a dude, you get an extra attack, but, you know, most units can't break that many things, so it's not the best thing. Build plus, I would say, is good. Build plus is good. It's decent. It helps you with speed. Only a few units can really make use of this, and there are light weapons from the hero, like weapons, or just like using certain builds with certain weapons that you don't have to use this at all. But if you want to increase something's speed without using speed plus, this is a different way of doing that. Canter, I think, is S tier. Defense plus, I think, is good. It's very cheap for an increase in defense. Demolish, I think, is a meme. Dex plus is okay. It can be okay on certain units that have dex triggers, so like Alchrist, Ivy, Tamara, Diamant, and Saline, but outside of that, it's just whatever, and even then, it's quite expensive. Divine Pulse in base game, I don't think is that good. There's not too many things whose hit rates are so terrible that this is really relevant, so I don't think it's that good. Dodge Avoid, or Dodge Plus. So Dodge reduces incoming crit rate. So this would only be released on tanks, but it's definitely better than D tier. Draconic Hex, definitely S tier. Dual Assist Plus, like Dual Assist in general, I would say it's A tier. If it was more reliable, I'd put it in S, but because it has a 70% chance to work, it is nice, but you can make builds that always one round outside of this. So it's one of these things where it's like a Void Plus, where it's like it is really strong and you can leverage it, but it's not as good as just like killing things. Dual Support, I kind of think is the same thing. You can create avoid tanks that can't get hit with both of these, so it's pretty decent. Favorite food, I think, is too situational, even with like the Boone build, so it's just not that good. Headlong Rush, I think, is good on maps it's useful on, and outside of that, it's not useful. And there's not tons of freeze enemies, so it's not the best thing. Healing Light, I think this is when you get healed, when you heal someone. Let me just confirm that. I know the name of it, because it's a Guild Wars 1 skill. Yeah, you get 50% of the health you heal for. I would say this is like C tier. It's okay. It is nice to have your healers get healed, but it's not really that useful, to be honest. Next we have the Hit plus 30. This is pretty good. I'll put it in like here. It's like B tier, it's decent. Holdout, I think, is S tier. I haven't experimented with, oh yeah, so Holdout, you could get you have a get out of jail free card. If you were to die, you just get put at 1 health based on certain thresholds. Holdout plus plus plus. If you have more than 2 health, or if you have more than 1 health, you just get put at 1 health if you were to die, which is super overpowered. So this enables like Nosferatu tanks and some other things, and also just gives you a get out of jail free card when you should die. You don't. Holy Stance, this reflects damage, I think up to 50% at max rank. Let me just double check that. I think it is 50%. Holy Stance. Yeah, Holy Stance plus 50% damage back to Corrupted, which is all in-game enemies. This could be good. I'll put it in B tier. It could have potential to be A tier, but you have to consider you're going to be taking a lot of damage in order to make it good. And most of the best tank build, like the best tank builds, you either don't get hit because you're getting bonded, shielded, chain guarded, you're dodging, or you're mitigating damage. So if you're mitigating damage, you're not flipping that much. If you're dodging, you're not flipping that much. And if you're bonded shield, you're not getting hit. So it would have to be used on a mitigation tank that still takes some damage just to flip some back. So it would help increase average damage, but then you're also throwing out like a lance, sword, axe power, or like, you know, a speed increase or something like that. So hard to justify this, but I don't know. It could have some uses. Health plus, I would say health plus is just okay. It's cheap, it's decent, it's there. Knife precision, I don't think is needed, but it's not terrible. It gives you a void. It's decent, but like the main problem with knife units is not their hits. I mean, the void is nice for void tanking. That's really where you would use it. The main problem with knife builds is the damage. So you need to get the damage up. I'll put it in B tier because it's like kind of similar to the avoid line. Lance agility, I think, is A tier. You lose, I think, crit for it. Going off of memory, but I do have it over here. You lose, yeah, 10 crit, but you can get up to avoid 30, when you're using a lance at all times. Now, it is cheaper than Avoid plus 30, and it also has better availability because it's on Erica, whereas this is on Marth. So you can actually get this mid-game and max it out pretty easily. It's pretty easy to do Erica's Paralog. Getting Avoid plus 30 on Lance is pretty solid. There's some pretty good Lances. Now, none of them are magical, obviously, like Levin Sword, but pretty solid Avoid tank skill that I use to do a flyer-only run without Bondage Shield, so pretty fun. Lance power, I think, is better than Axe power, slightly. I think they're very close, but I think it's slightly better. I think there's more Lance units that are better at killing than Axe units. Now, obviously, you can make anyone an Axe unit, but it requires more accuracy and hit fixing. But it does have more power, so there's like trade-offs. So actually, I'll say this: they're kind of equal, but there's trade-offs. I'll say that. Lost items, just used for building support. It's a meme. Put it way down there. Luck plus. This is really just useful for Ana gold farming. Outside of that, I don't know what else you'd use it on. It's okay. Lunar brace. Definitely up there with the other damage things. Just increases physical damage dealt based on enemy defense. Magic plus, I think, is A tier. It's just a good way of increasing magical damage. It's kind of similar to Gentility Bravery, but you can only really get it on early and like units and then late game. So Gentility definitely has Bravery. Gentility has a better availability, and it's actually cheaper. 2k SP. I think it's 3k SP for plus 3. Yeah, because it goes 1, then 2, then 3, I believe. Or it starts out at plus 1, and then I think it's like 3k for plus 3. It's something weird. It ends up being like 3k SP for plus 3 magic, whereas this is plus 3 for 2k, so it's just cheaper. Strength, I think, is similar. Mentorship, you shouldn't do it. It's kind of a waste. Unless you want to like just power level quickly, it doesn't really do much. It's kind of like a waste of SP. Momentum, this one's interesting. I'll put Momentum in B tier. It has some potential. It also scales weird things. Like, I think it scales like Leaf combo attacks for some reason, like his Quad Strike. So if you get like plus 6 for Momentum, you get all that damage. And I think Sword Power also scales it, so that just makes Momentum even worse. But the power skills kind of eclipse most things in this game. Pair Bond, or what is it? It's like Dual Bond, or is it Pair Bond? Yeah, Pair Up, sorry. Pair Up, prevent damage from chain attacks against units. This I would put at like, I'll put this at like high B tier. You could use this if you just position your tanks well and they kill things on enemy phase. They never need to worry about chain attacks because they just kill everything. So you just move your dude like 2 tiles away from everything, and then the enemies have to approach again, and then they die, and then chain attacks don't go off. So really just basic positioning solves this, but you could use it and it's fine. What is this? Perceptive. All right, so you get plus 15 avoid or plus 30 avoid if you have the plus version when you initiate, and it increases with high speed. I think it's 1% more per 4 speed. This is kind of similar to Alacrity. I don't recommend it. Quality time, I think, is S tier for on utility units. So you don't run this on combat units, but just having this on units, it's cheap. You can easily get it. It's 250 SP / 500 bond fragments. Very available on your backline units. Your chain guarders can use this to chip heal, your staff bots can use this, your Thoron units, your longbows, your archers, whatever backline you're running, you can run this on them to just constantly heal things for free. And even if you just have a dude trigger this like 4 times, that's 20 health healed that you don't have to heal now. So like, and then the plus version heals 10 health, which is quite a bit, and it can heal multiple people. So you can get a lot of value out of this just by positioning your units, especially if you have like a canter, like bow unit with quality time. They just like shoot down a flyer and then canter next to allies and heal them. It's pretty nice. Like there's a lot of things, and then same thing with like Thoron units. They Thoron, they canter, and then they wait next to someone. Pretty huge, pretty useful. Res plus, I think it's like, it has a use case, but it's not really that good. You could use it on tanks. I don't know. I don't see it being used, to be honest. Like Gentility is so much better because it reduces damage in general, all damage. Reposition, I don't use this personally, but I think it is good. It's good on utility units, so like units that don't attack twice, especially. So if you have a unit who has like high base, like magic or strength, and they hit hard, with like a single hitting thing. You could use this on them for utility, or for just like, you can use this on utility units as well. So it's just a nice, cheap repositional tool. You know, you move a unit over you. So it's very nice actually for moving things around if something's just out of range, if something's in danger. Very good utility skill. I don't use it that much because I usually just kind of dive, hold a position, and just slow push, or just like warp or whatever. But it's definitely used in LTCs, and it's also used for general play. You know, it's pretty solid. Next we have Resolve and Resolve Plus. I don't use this, but it is good. Like, I've never unlocked this, but you get this on Ike for free. So when you're at 75% HP or less, you get +5 defense and res at base rank, and then +7 defense and res at the Resolve Plus rank. That's pretty substantial damage reduction, especially if you run that with Gentility. So you could tank, you can make off tanks by running this if you want. Maybe it's not as good as these. Maybe it's like here, I would say. I think that's fair. It's good. It's definitely not as good as Gentility, because Gentility you can engage on Erica to get a damage boost, and it also reduces damage, which is pretty nice simultaneously, or you can switch modes. So it's definitely better than this, because this doesn't improve damage, just tanks. So Resonance. Resonance is interesting. It gives you true damage, but it also causes you to lose HP, and you can get base Resonance early. And I could see it being useful in a unit like Citrine, so that she can damage herself to then AoE heal, as like a kind of tactic, if you will, but it's definitely not as good as Gentility, because for the same cost, you don't lose HP, and you get more damage, and also an optional damage reduction, and then also a simultaneous damage reduction and damage increase when the Erica unit is engaged. So I don't think it's nearly as good, but it's not terrible. It's like B tier. Silence, what is this? Silence immunity. It's a decent utility. What's the actual name of it though? Let's see, silence. Silence ward. Yeah, you just get immunity to silence. Silence isn't that big of an issue. I'll put it in low C tier because it has like an actual use case that's decent. But silence isn't that big of an issue where your mages are going to be getting silenced frequently, but if there are maps with this, it's nice to have it unlocked. However, the unfortunate thing is most of the maps that have silence are middle game maps, and you can't get this unless you get it early. So it's kind of redundant in a way, like it just doesn't do much. So I think it's just C tier. Speed Plus, I think this is one of the best things in the game. Speed Taker, same thing. The difference between these, honestly, I don't think you should run too many Speed Plus 5s. I think you should run at least 2 Speed Takers, because Speed Taker unlocks, I think at bond level like 2, so you just need to get to bond level 5, which is very cheap. 500 bond fragments, 2k SP for +10 speed as long as you get 5 kills. So run 2 Speed Takers and then run like 3 to 4 Speed Plus 5s. That will save you a ton of bond fragments. In my most recent Maddening run, I tried just using Speed Plus 3 to 5, and you just burn through bond fragments getting that. It's just not, I mean, you can, if you run like DLC or whatever, you could probably have enough, but on, you know, base game, Speed Plus 5, you can run it, but you don't get as much of a benefit. The other thing too is Speed Taker can push you up higher, so you can get, you know, Speed Plus 5 after 3 kills, you're Speed Plus 6. So it's cheaper in terms of SP and in terms of bond fragments, and you can get it immediately. You don't even have to do lens paralog. So you should run both, but one is better on units that are already very fast, and the other is better on units that are fast, but not nearly as fast as like Griffin Knights, Wolf Knights, things like this. So Speed Taker is better for most units, but you should only really run like 2 to 3. 3 would be like the max, and you should be careful with how many kills you feed. But the other thing too is you can like manually control how many kills each unit gets for their speed taking. So like, let's say a unit just needs like 2 Speed Taker triggers to start doubling everything on the map. You can do that, and then you're fine. Like, you don't have to feed them more kills beyond that. And assuming that doubling doesn't kill, they can set up kills for other Speed Takers, and that's fine. Staff Mastery. This is definitely a utility skill. I'll put it in B tier. It's useful for offensive staff use, as well as just increasing the healing amount that basic staves provide. It's good. You should run like maybe one of these on a staff bot, that's it. I don't recommend more. The only problem with it is its availability. It's on, I think, Micaiah, which is post chapter 19, so chapter 20. But if you get it on an early unit that you plan on using as a staff bot, it can be okay. You can get like rank 3, I think, before time skip, it's the wrong game, before losing your emblem rings. Alright, so strength plus 6, or strength plus rather. I would say strength plus is about as good as magic plus. They're both more expensive than the powers and gentility in terms of SP to damage ratio, but they're good. Like, strength plus is good on units that run multiple weapons that already have decent strength, so I'm gonna put Solar Brace next to this. Now the actual Solar Brace itself is whatever, but it's part of this, that's why it's here. Alright, Sword Agility. So Sword Agility is on Ike, it's similar to Avoid Plus. I would say it's like low A tier. You can still run it. It's still up to Avoid plus 30, but the availability is much worse. Avoid plus, actually I'll put it in B tier. The Avoid plus 10 to 20 early on like a unit like Fram, this is the reason why this is an A tier, or even on like an Alir or Chloe dodge tank. This can be really good because it's just like early Avoid plus. But obviously if you're on like Chloe, you could run like Lance Avoid, and Sword Avoid is on Marth, same thing in the Void plus. But there are better ways, like this is the best way to get Avoid, I think. Just like positioning and a bunch of units running dual support. It's probably the best. Actually, I'll bump that up to low S tier. It is kind of broken because you can become unhittable like easily just with 2 or 3 A support units next to each other, and you have like a squad of unhittable units that enemies won't attack. So it's pretty broken. It's pretty insane. Sword focus. This increases your accuracy with swords. Swords are already the most accurate. It's useless. Sword power, I do think, is the best because of the Levin sword, and also like Brave sword and other swords in general. It's just pretty good. Tome focus. This just increases hit rate with tomes. It's tied to Celica. I'm gonna put this in C tier. It gives you hit and avoid with tomes, but most tome units aren't going to be avoid tanks, and the only one that would be Pandreo. And even then, there's better passives like dual support, so he's better off just running that. His passive works based off of the number of allies enemies, which plays into what dual support wants, so... Holdouts, or I'm sorry, unyielding plus plus. This just heals you if you're low HP when your turn starts. So based on thresholds, like the lowest, the highest it'll heal you is like at plus plus version. If you're at 40% or lower, I think it heals you for 40%. This is okay situational, like okay. It's not like the best thing. It's not really that useful though. There's definitely better passives. It's cheap, but I think you can just get base rank, and so like if you're at 20%, you get 20%, but being at 20, assuming you're going to be at 20% HP is kind of not what you should be doing. It's kind of like a bad idea. Vantage. I think it's safe to say that Vantage is S tier. It's like up there, it's like mid S tier. There's like a bunch of Vantage builds that are really insane, so. And then Wrath. I think Wrath is also S tier. Wrath allows you to get increased crit rate or to guarantee crits on certain units. So being able to consistently crit on a unit that has enough might to 1 round off of that crit, and this includes like Panette and Linden and some other units. Wrath is really good. It's also good for the averages game. It's kind of like giving a unit Sandstorm potential. So for example, if you have, I use a Marin tank, or like I did in the most recent run I've done, and she was on Ike. She had Wrath as a passive unlocked through Ike, and she would get to like 40 to 50% crit rates and double an enemy phase with steel daggers, and consistently crit every enemy or every other enemy, getting extra kills she wouldn't have gotten otherwise off of those crits. So even if you're just playing the averages game, this is just like huge impact that enables builds that won't 1 round to 1 round. Even if it's like a coin flip, if you enemy phase 5 things and you get 2 to 3 coin flips, that's still 2 to 3 kills you wouldn't get without it, because there's no dagger power, right? So so this particular skill, and there's also builds, there's like Panette builds, there's all these different builds that leverage this that are quite good, and generally speaking this is a pretty good skill, especially when combined with like crit engravings and units that have crit passives, or you have like supports that improve crit rate and stuff like this. But here is my revised list after like 1,200 hours of playtime in Maddening. So definitely let me know what you think, if you agree or disagree with this. Feel free to drop a comment. We also live stream from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. EST every weekday, and we have channel membership where we do weekend events where we play like Minecraft, TF2, Smash Bros. Sometimes. We're probably going to be adding more games to the roster for that. But yeah, thanks for checking us out, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.